This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
And welcome to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, accept no imitations. And it is a snowy Thursday here in Pittsburgh.
It's not warming up at all. Pretty
It is
chilly.
not.
Yeah.
Matt, 2 weeks from today, the combine workouts will begin.
Yeah.
In
be
Indianapolis.
There. We'll be our second night already there. And yeah.
It'll be our third night.
Third, I guess. Yeah.
We're there.
Get there Monday.
Stretching it out Monday through Friday. And you'll be able to hear all of our shows. In fact, it's actually kind of a neat schedule for the combine here. Let me see if I can find that schedule. We start at 9 a.m.
Right.
And we go till 4 p.m. every day with live coverage, except for Friday. Friday, we're done at 2.
Friday's a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
What I know, and I don't have it in front of me, is I'm on from 10 to noon each day. Not Friday. Friday's different. And then I'm back from 2 to 4. And I think Wes and maybe Rob are on the hour before
Wes
I
and
show
Rob
up.
are on from the early
9
portion,
to 10.
Yeah.
But then there's hockey line changes, where people come and go by the
we'll
hour.
have,
right.
Yeah, we'll have, here's a schedule right here.
Good.
All right, so 9 to 10 is Wes and Rob.
Right.
10 to
Will
noon.
this be Rob's first combine?
I believe so.
I would think, yeah.
We'll have to do something special for that.
Yeah. Indoctrinate him.
10 to noon is Wes, Rob, and you.
Okay. I thought Rob left halfway through that one, but I guess not.
Yeah. Then from noon to 2, it's myself, Max Starks, and Jerry Dulac. Then from 2 to 4, it's me, you, and Max.
And I think Max only sticks around for
an hour, yeah.
And then
but,
you and I are the closers.
Yeah. And then we'll continue through with that through Thursday. And then Friday schedule, again, 9 to 10 is Wes and Rob. 10 to noon is Wes, Rob, and Matt. And then from noon to 2 is Dale, Max, and Matt.
And then we're hopping in the car and heading back.
Coming back, and we'll have all the interviews and all that fun stuff done. But
that starts Tuesday, right?
That starts on Tuesday. We will have a show Monday that week as well.
I think Monday we'll be able to still do a drive. We'll be in Indy.
Yeah.
So we'll figure that out. But we should still be able to make that work.
So wall-to-wall coverage here on the Steelers Audio Network.
I love it.
What you tune in for. And this year's draft.
All the guests and stuff, too, in combine time, yeah.
They sent out the list of combine invitees. The NFL did, or I guess the NFL does that.
Yeah.
I think there's like 329 invitees or something like that.
Okay.
Over 30 running backs.
Wow.
Which
that's I've mentioned. I mean, Mel Kiper's been saying he has 35 with a draftable grade on.
Yeah, some of them got left out because I think it's like
I
counted it up. It was like 31 heading for the combine. It's insane.
Yeah. There's going to be really good undrafted running backs.
Yeah. Even more. We talk about this wide receiver class. I mean, there's like over 40 wide receivers invited to this one. Bunch of tight ends. We knew that it's a deep
really
tight
good
end
class. Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, a bunch of offensive linemen because you're talking about a bunch of different positions there. Same with the defensive line.
The defensive line class, folks, is outstanding.
Yeah. And then the defensive backs. There's a bunch of those as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of interesting. I mean, I got a chance to see some of these guys at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
This will be another opportunity to, kind of take in some of those interviews and get a chance to listen to some of these guys talk, how they interact with the media and things of that nature. It's a big time.
Oh, it's a big deal. Yeah. I mean, it's a convention of all NFL folks and all the buzz you start hearing about trades and free agency and that kind of stuff too is pretty legit. And, unlike the Senior Bowl or some of those type of things, players don't really decline these invites. They may not work
go to
out,
this one.
but you go and you go sit in the bod pod and do the medicals at a minimum because you have to get that done anyways. You might as well knock it out, one-stop shopping, and you do the interviews for the most part too. And you pick and choose which teams you interview with if you're a premium player, but all in all, everyone's there.
Yeah, and this was the first opportunity for a lot of these guys to be measured.
Yeah, for real.
For real.
Yeah.
And we're pull back the curtain. We've started on some of our triple take stuff and for Steelers.com. And I said to you and Mike Pursuit, I'm like, why don't we just wait for the early stuff that we're doing? Don't put any heights and weights in, or we all got to use the same height and weight, otherwise we look silly.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of different heights and weights out there for these guys until they get to the combine.
Right. I would say don't just go to Oklahoma's program. That's
Yeah.
for sure. Those are going to be way off. And even so, like, let's say, like quarterback, I guess, a good position, or wide receiver. I'm truly 6'1" and 7/8. Well, everyone will put a 6'2" in the program, but there's a difference.
Or even
between
6'3".
Yeah, I would say that's a big difference than being 6'2" and 7/8.
Maybe they measured me in my spikes.
Yeah. So hand, arm, all those type of things too is important.
Weight,
exactly. But people, they fudge that for speed or.
I saw, like, for example, Shedeur Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if he officially got weighed in when he was in.
I'm assuming he did, but I guess
he didn't work out when he went to the East-West Shrine Bowl. But I saw a weight on him. It was 198 pounds. I'm like,
I know. I'm going to say 200.
He's listed at 215.
I think that's
198 and 215. There's a huge difference there
at that position.
Absolutely.
And he takes a lot of hits in the pocket and isn't the best runaround guy either. So that is definitely a concern with him. It's just his bulk and his body mass and power and strength.
You're a pure pocket passer.
Mm-hmm.
Better have some body armor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he's a get it out quick, good anticipatory guy, but he does take a lot of hits trying to extend plays and stuff too.
Yeah, so that'll be the real interesting part of that. We'll get those measurements.
Mm-hmm.
Those come through pretty.
We usually get them like on the air.
We'll have them all before we're done on Friday.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
that's
one of the first
place.
things.
Yeah,
I forget the exact order of operations of when the players arrive. I think it's medicals, then height, weight. I mean, there's a couple things they do before they seeing the fields last.
Yeah.
Whenever they're done with their drills, they can finally get out of there, and it's a grind.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a grind for the players. I mean, every minute is, hauled around like ducklings.
The interesting thing is I think with this year's combine, I think I talked about this last week, I think the defensive linemen are first this year.
Okay.
So we'll get a good look at those guys on those first couple of days. We'll get to see some of their on-field workouts and the heights and weights and all that kind of stuff early in the process.
I was listening to PFF. Trevor Sikkema joined us last year. I was listening to his podcast. It was like well over 2 hours since yesterday, and they did their top 15 interior D linemen, two hosts. And the guys they had to leave off were like really quality prospects. I mean, it's a really, really good group. And that's just the interior. And all shapes and sizes. They have noses and, big defensive end types and all shapes and sizes in between. So pretty psyched about that group.
It's kind of my point with Bob yesterday when we had Bob Labriola on. Like, if you don't take one in the first round, you could get a quality player. Let's remember, Stephon Tuitt was a second-round draft pick.
Right.
Like, those guys are going to be available in this draft too.
And I understand Bob's side of it. He wants the next Cam Hayward.
I understand that, yeah.
And that's a top 5 to 10 defensive player. Everybody wants the next Cam Hayward. I get that too. But
potential Hall of Famer.
Right. I mean, that's wonderful. But that doesn't mean if you miss out in the first round, you're shut out.
Yeah. Chris Jones was a second-round draft pick.
Yeah. And I wonder, and this will change, but if Nolan's gone, how many are you really comfortable with at 21? When it's all said and done, I mean, there's a couple. I mean, but there's going to be a gap between Graham at the top of the draft and the second D tackle taken.
And that's why the workout for a guy like Grant, who's kind of viewed as, well, he might be just a nose. Mm-hmm. Well, if he goes out there and runs a sub 5-second 40 and
his agility stuff
looks good in the agility drills and it's 3 cones really good, and you're like, no, I think he could play in.
Yeah. Or he can play 50 snaps a game, not 20.
Just looking here at that 2014 draft where the Steelers got Stephon Tuitt in the second round.
He was an early one, though, right?
It was mid.
I guess that was a Shazier draft, right?
Jadavian Clowney was the first overall pick. Mm-hmm. Okay. You didn't have another defensive lineman picked until Aaron Donald at 13.
Well, Mack went a couple picks after him.
Yeah, he's a
linebacker. They called him
they call him a linebacker at that point. Same thing with Anthony Barr, but he was
Barr was an off-the-ball linebacker.
Yeah. Then you're looking at Dominic Easley, went 29.
Oh, wow. He washed out quick, too.
Yeah. After that.
Wow, that's a really light first round for
DeMarcus Lawrence was the second pick in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good player.
Yeah.
Rashid Hagman
Falcons.
went to the Falcons at pick 37. And then Stephon Tuitt at pick 46.
Wow. So, I mean, even just not including like Clowney, who's more of an edge, he was like the third or fourth D tackle off the board.
Yeah.
Wow. It's a pretty light group.
Right after him, you saw Timmy Jurgen go.
Mm-hmm. Ravens.
Ego Ferguson to the Bears. Wow.
Yeah.
Not
a
that
great
was
D tackle.
That was really it. Kona Ely went to Carolina at pick 60.
Okay. So those are the guys in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
But you're right. Chris Jones, I think, was an early 2. I mean, some of these guys, you can find good players, especially in this draft, I think, on day 2 in the D-line.
Yeah.
And the noses in particular.
And for example, the reason Tuitt was such a raw player.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I did a radio show. He started playing football like 16.
Yeah, because he's big and unbelievably talented.
He was like just turned 21 when they drafted him. So he'd been a football player for like 5 years.
Yeah.
You know?
I imagine being like his high school coach before he decided to say yes. You pass him in the hall all the time or see him at gym class or whatever.
You see him the first day of school because he was already that size. I've seen the videos.
The high school stuff's crazy.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. If you want to have some fun, call up Stephon Tuitt's high school video on YouTube.
But I'm sure like the coach before he just said, before that year 16 was like, maybe you should play football, son. Yeah, we could use someone like you. Yeah.
Looking at the 2015 draft, you had Leonard Williams go 6 overall.
He goes early, yeah.
Then you're looking at Danny Shelton at 12 by the Browns. Again, a nose tackle.
Again, he wouldn't go there now.
No. Eric Armstead went at 17.
Okay. Still playing well.
Yeah.
Won Walter Payton Man of the Year.
Shane Ray was a defensive end. He went at 23. Yeah. And Malcolm Brown. Last pick of the first round.
Okay. Rams, that Malcolm Brown? There was 2 Malcolm, or was that
was the Patriots.
The Patriot one.
Patriot
okay,
one.
there were 2 defensive tackles named Malcolm Brown in about the same era.
That wasn't the Chris Jones draft, was it?
Jones was a second.
That was not. When did he come in?
He came out
16?
Let me think about that. Yeah, it's probably real close.
The 16 draft, you had Sheldon Rankins. Well, DeForest Buckner went 7th.
I say this was a good D tackle draft. Yes, and that is the class he was with.
Sheldon Rankins went 12th.
Mm-hmm.
Shaq Lawson was an end. He went 19th. Kenny Clark went 27.
Okay, good career.
Robert Ndiche went 29th. That was
all off the field.
Yeah. Vernon Butler went 30th.
Panthers.
Chris Jones went 37th.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, he kind of like he does now. He had a little bit of reputation of taking some plays off.
Yeah,
and
there was
a good
questions.
D tackle draft, and he put it all together.
There were some questions.
Right, yeah.
But you can get those kind of guys.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The thing about the draft, it's you have to look at it and say, okay, there's going to be this year probably 2 quarterbacks.
I would say
you would like to see more, but it is what it is. So those guys are going to go early.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's going to be a bunch of offensive linemen that go
every year
in the first round because everybody needs them. Everybody's.
It won't be as tackle heavy as last year with Fuaga and Fatanu and those guys too.
But there's going to be
a lot of linemen.
There's going to be 5 or 6 offensive linemen in the first round.
Mm-hmm. And to pull the curtain back, we both just finished our first mock draft, and there's that little section where it's like Bears, Niners, Dolphins, where it's like
they can go anywhere.
I just think that's O-line madness right there. Yeah, which would be good for the Steelers.
I think this is a pretty good edge draft.
Very much.
A bunch of those guys are going to go in the first round.
Oh yeah.
I think there's 5 or 6 of those that go in the first round for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then
edge and O-line, I think you want to see go, and there could be a lot of them.
You start seeing those spots fill up, and it's like, okay, maybe this guy could fall or that guy could fall.
Mm-hmm.
It just works out well.
Yeah, yeah. Again, it's so early. It's the day before Valentine's Day. I just don't know how many pure D tackles would be in my top 21 right now, and Graham won't have any chance of making it there.
Yeah.
So does that mean you defer to the second round or move up or move back or whatever?
That's the interesting thing to me about this draft is that, Graham's a good player, but he's not Aaron Donald.
No. I mean, even like Quinnen Williams.
Yeah,
in terms of prospect.
Yeah, he's not that kind of prospect.
He's got shorter arms, and he's not a superstar athlete,
But then you look at it, and there's like 20 of them, you go like, wow, these guys are good players.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where do you take them?
I know. And I wonder, in the 5th round, you'll be sitting there like, oh, I wish I didn't take 2 already, you know. And
we've done that when we mock
in
drafts.
mocks,
Like,
too,
oh,
right,
I can't believe that guy's available.
Right. You know, farmers and guys like that, especially the noses. I mean, there's I would have to look at a list, but I bet I could come up with 7 noses that I would be real happy to add as a Steeler.
Yeah.
You know, not all of them are pass rushers, you know. I mean, but
it might be a 5th round guy or something like that. It's like,
I mean, the guy from Oregon we don't talk about a lot, but he's pretty darn good too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of them.
Yeah. So it's just going to be the way this will, and we'll get more information as this whole thing goes along and get a better grasp on what some of these teams are looking for. And we'll have free agency will play a part in that as well.
I mean, monstrous. And unfortunately, a handful of prospects are going to get bad medical stuff in Indy too. Right. It's not all good news. And
or somebody that had bad medical, some of these cornerbacks.
Yeah, Ravel or somebody like that.
The kid from Notre Dame.
Morrison,
all of a sudden, oh, no, he's going to be fine.
He's
You're
like,
fine. Okay.
I don't know if you looked at my mock yet, but the Penn State or the Ohio State tackle I had going high, and I'm just going to hope for him that he has a good, you know, good medicals because he's a true tackle. You know, right. I mean, I had him going as the first O lineman off the board because if he's clean, which I hope he is, who knows? You know, I'm kind of going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to check out his knee or whatever. It's not my job, but he could really skyrocket up boards because he's a tackle.
I could see you under the table with Ike and Jonesies or something tapping on his knee.
What's going on with this?
You gonna eat that shrimp?
And the shrimp there is pretty good too.
Yeah,
if people don't know.
Absolutely. Anyways, let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I'm Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. Welcome back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and this is The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network.
Well done.
You like that? Anyways, so I wake up this morning.
Yeah.
As I do every day, hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
That's the plan every day when I go to bed. And
right.
I hopefully wake up in the morning, and immediately I look at social media, and, well, there's a report out there. The Steelers have contacted the Jacksonville Jaguars about Trevor Lawrence and willing to give up their first and second round picks and maybe next year's first for Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah. And the way I got, you know, just waking up all foggy-eyed, like, well, this is like close to a done deal. You know, like they're deep in talks any minute now. You know, like, okay.
Let's tap the brakes on that a little bit.
Yeah.
Again, this time of year, you'll see all kinds of crazy stuff bandied about.
Oh, yeah. The rumors and, you know, part of it's just because people are having conversations.
People have
right.
For example, in this situation, and I don't know who the reporter in question spoke to within the Jaguars organization, nor do I care.
Well, I think it's extremely noteworthy that organization doesn't have a GM.
There's that. There is that.
I think that's highly important in this
conversation.
Kind of a big deal. Right.
So whoever this conversation took place between doesn't include anybody who's currently in a decision-making
I mean, the owner has every right to
now.
trade Trevor Lawrence if the Khans, so no relation to Omar, by the way, happen to want to. But that's not really their job.
The wrath of either way.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's a GM's job.
Right.
It didn't never pass the sniff test to me from the beginning.
No, largely
from a Jags perspective.
Because of that particular point here. They're still interviewing GM. They just hired a head coach like last week.
Who I assume wants to work with Trevor Lawrence.
The whole reason he took the job is so he can work with Trevor Lawrence.
Right. I mean, and since then, did they fall in love with Shedeur Sanders to the point that they have to have him? Or did they have conversations with this head coach and he said, man, I think you guys are a great organization. I want to work with you, but I think you got to get out now with Lawrence. I don't think he's the guy. I'm just trying to think of any scenario that makes sense from a Jags perspective.
They just paid him last year.
That's what I was going to say. The dead money is
$133 million in dead money. And, by the way, he has no trade clause in his contract.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just pure speculation on my part.
Yeah.
So we just get back from the Senior Bowl. So let's say, for example, you are a scout for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a scout for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're standing there watching the prospects.
Sure.
On the field in Mobile, or we're sitting in the stands and watching the prospects. Either one, because that's what happened. All the scouts are on different groups.
And a lot of them, we worked together 20 years ago in Chicago or something, right?
Hey, how's it going? And, we start a conversation, and so what's going on with Trevor Lawrence? Well, he got hurt last year. We're kind of disappointed. It was a disappointing year for him. Oh, we just had to try a conversation about Trevor Lawrence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Somebody in the organization. Or frankly.
We just had that could have been the extent of it.
And frankly, if it was Omar that had a conversation with somebody in the organization, that's his job too.
Right.
A turnover every stone possible they're not calling the Chiefs about Mahomes, but if there's a 1% chance that there's something that's worth talking about, let's talk about it. Or
you talk to every
communication amongst
it happens on a regular basis.
If you're not doing your job.
They talk on a consistent basis.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, who the hell would Omar talk to right now within that organization?
That's the thing. Tony Baselli is doing something.
And he just got hired earlier this week.
And I think he was their radio announcer.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he's even in charge of, I don't know what he's doing.
So is this a conversation between, say, Max Starks and Tony Baselli?
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
I don't know. None of it adds up
financially
financially for
Jacksonville. It was reported like it was some kind of breaking news. Conversations take place between teams all the time.
Yeah.
To throw in the fact, there were first and second round picks being thrown around and all that kind of stuff.
Like the specifics of it all.
Yeah.
It makes it sound like it went a lot further than I'm sure that it did.
This isn't a fantasy football trade.
No. And another thing that absolutely could have happened is you're calling about Christian Kirk. And that's serious. Maybe that is serious.
Right. And that would have been much more believable than this.
Steelers and Jags are talking. Oh, they must want the quarterback.
And maybe maybe the Steelers did have that. Hey, we were close on Christian Kirk at the trade deadline.
Right.
Where's he at in terms of his health? Are you guys still interested in dealing him?
Because we're very interested. We liked him then. We still like him now, assuming there's no health ramifications or compounding the matter.
And over the course of the conversation, you say, "Hey, how's Trevor Lawrence coming along?"
Or they ask you,
how's your
quest for quarterbacks
doing
right now? Like, we're still looking. Okay. Give us 18 first-round picks for Trevor Lawrence.
I never even got that far.
I mean, right.
It's a ridiculous report. People run
it just doesn't add up at all.
None of it does. No. Right. But conversations take place on a regular basis between teams. Doesn't make them noteworthy.
No.
It would be more noteworthy if no conversations ever took place.
Yeah.
We didn't. Nobody talked to anybody, and we don't.
Especially this time of year when
we're walled off.
I mean, all these teams now are all buttoned up doing preliminary draft boards. I mean, they're not
free agent rankings.
Yeah. But I mean, all the scouts are in town.
You just got the list for the combine. Now you have to sit down and figure out who do we want to talk to.
Oh yeah. We only got so many interviews, and which ones are we going to do formally, which ones are we going to do informally, and a lot of teams, rightfully so, like to at least have your final football grades in now, so you don't go changing your reports because he ran a 4.2. Like you already knew he was fast.
These next 2 weeks are very busy for the scouts.
Very busy. One of the busiest times, right?
Yeah, your work.
Frankly, when you get to the war rooms,
those decisions
you kind of
have been
said
made.
your piece.
Yeah.
I mean, you rank. Well, we had this guy running back 4. Let's move him to running back 6. Things like that, but. You're real familiar with the class.
The knee was a little worse than what we thought.
Yeah, or I didn't like the way talking to him, or boy, he really had no clue about protections, or whatever.
Yeah, but that's what's going on now. I guarantee you, if there was a 5-second conversation, it was not by anybody in Jacksonville who is a decision maker.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have one right now.
Right, except for the owner.
He's
and probably not going to make trades on his own.
Would not think so.
That's not how that works.
And, again, it was probably just in passing.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, it could have been as part of another potential trade pack. You just don't know. But to then speculate that, well, the Steelers give up a first and second, and they're going to give up next year's first, even though they host a draft next year, they're willing to give up this for Trevor Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, man.
Yeah. I understand if he were available, and which I don't think he is. He's not. The Steelers should inquire. From the Jags' perspective, as soon as I read it, I'm like, they're not doing that. I mean, they're not going to take. They signed him 1 year ago. It was almost 365 days ago. I mean, the cap hit would be astronomical.
For example,
it makes no sense.
If somebody came out and said the Steelers have called the Rams inquiring about Matthew Stafford,
I hope they have.
All right, that's believable.
Yeah, I hope they have.
But
you can call the Jags all you want. I mean, it makes no sense for them to. I'm sure there's no, he's our quarterback. End of story.
If it even got that far.
If it got that far, right.
And I doubt that, I
100% agree. None of it added up to me at all, but especially from the Jags' perspective. What are we just
signed
we're
him.
moving on from him.
Yeah,
Right.
We just signed him.
We just hired a coach to work with him.
Yeah.
For that reason.
It's the craziness that takes place at this time of year.
No, it does.
Of course, we also now know that the Jets are officially moving on from Aaron Rodgers. So let the speculation begin with that, because why wouldn't the Steelers want a 42-year-old quarterback?
Yep. I've already heard, Steelers are one of the leaders in the clubhouse in Vegas of where Rodgers is going to play his next snap, blah, 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 blah. Again, the Steelers should have a conversation about it. That's what their jobs
doing your due diligence.
Right? You just don't be like, nah, nope, Is that better than our options here? What would he want? Okay, no.
Can he still play?
We
played against him last year. What did our scouting report show going into that game?
Yeah.
It's all part of the conversation. You have conversations about a lot of stuff. It doesn't mean that you are close to making that decision, but you consider all options. That's your job.
You have to. That's the job.
Yeah.
And there was a pro scout that was in charge of the Jets that had a full write-up on Aaron Rodgers the day they played and one for the final after the year. That's your job as as a pro scout. You use that as a jumping off point, and if it's immediately we can do better than that, conversation probably doesn't go any further,
Yeah.
You have to have these conversations.
Yeah, I don't know. At some point here in the next few weeks, the Steelers are probably going to sign a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to continue to believe what Art Rooney II said at his press briefing at the end of the season, that his preference is that it is Russell Wilson or Justin Fields.
Mm-hmm. They have to be the leaders in the clubhouse. I mean, they just have to.
The rest of it is just pure speculation.
Mm-hmm. And I don't quite understand the Rodgers side of it. I mean,
I don't know that it makes you any better off than what you were.
Mm-mm. And again, like all these things, you have to look at it through both sides. Like that Jags conversation. Why would they move him? I mean, Rodgers, to me, he's not going back to the Jets. Okay, we know that.
He's not going back to the Packers.
Not going back to the Packers. Like the teams that he could even go to, do you think he wants to play for the Giants or Titans or Raiders or, the Steelers to me are the only ones that at least would be in the playoff hunt, if they were interested in him. Like how many teams are available that he would want to play for right now?
And here's the thing with Rodgers. Let's say they were to decide, we're going to go that route.
Mm-hmm.
He would have to make a lot of concessions.
Yeah.
In terms of, you're going to be here for the off-season program.
Sure.
You're not going to go off and skip mini camp so you can go to Egypt.
Or be on McAfee every week talking about
that you can't control.
I know. But.
That's his business there, and if he wants to do that, that could be a reason why you don't want to sign him, though. He's going to air all of our dirt, any kind of dirty laundry or anything that happens within the organization. He's going to go on McAfee and talk about it. And do we want that? Is that something we can deal with?
Mm-hmm. And I have unbelievable respect for him as a player through his career. One of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen. But I don't know if anything's ever been his fault in terms of like public eye or one of those things. He's not the guy that just falls on the sword for his teammates either. It's just his personality.
Yeah. So, I don't think that's the direction that they'll go. But
it's such easy clickbait for people, though. But any quarterback you can link to the Steelers right now, and people are going to talk about it. Right. Anyone. I mean, it could be Jameis Winston. It could be Joe Milton. It could be whoever. I mean, you're just going to link them to the Steelers. Oh, yeah, that's what's going to happen. Right.
Well, let's talk about something you just mentioned. Of the teams who don't have a quarterback, both New York teams.
Yeah.
Tennessee,
Raiders.
The Raiders. Anybody else that I'm missing there?
I think, but I'm going to have to. I mean, Darnold's going to fill one of those.
The Browns.
Spots. Browns. Yeah, that's definitely one.
Of those teams, the Steelers are easily the most attractive landing spot.
Yes.
By far.
If said quarterback gets to pick and choose where he lands of all those teams.
It's why Wilson signed here last year.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to win this year or go to the playoffs, the Steelers have a much better chance of going to the playoffs than all those teams you mentioned. Much.
By far.
You
you might be able to combine the rosters of all those other teams, and it still wouldn't be what the Steelers have.
No, there aren't many. There aren't any good teams that are quarterback searching.
No, that's one of the reasons why they're good teams.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, by the way, despite all the, again, when we went through some of the stuff yesterday, the power rankings and things of that nature earlier this week, the Steelers do not have a bad roster.
No,
they've got a roster that can win.
Mm-hmm. It's a competitive roster
with a quarterback.
Yeah.
With again, legitimate quarterback play.
Mm-hmm. Which is why they probably view this whole quarterback situation different than the Titans of the first overall pick,
right.
et cetera, et cetera. Should we go with Ward, or should we try to sign Darnold, or should we punt and take who we think's the best player available and hope Levis turns into something? Or that's a totally different conversation. Expectations are different.
Yeah, it's one reason why we've talked about Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's the best quarterback available in this cycle right now that we know of.
Yeah,
if Stafford were available, that would change that.
He's certainly the best you don't have to pay anything for,
right?
In terms of draft picks,
in terms of draft picks, and
right,
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But is he the answer? And that's the question that you have to ask yourself,
right? Because it is still a substantial contract, and he's going to want at least a 3-year deal, I would think, which he will get. I don't know. And again, you just mentioned 6-7 teams that don't really have quarterbacks. If we count 2 in the draft, Darnold, we don't get to 6 or 7. Yeah. Wilson and/or Fields.
That's why they'll have suitors. If like people saying that Russell Wilson Pittsburgh's his only option. Need to look around the league a little bit here.
Yeah.
There's not enough chairs to fill. There's not enough butts to fill the chairs.
There isn't right now. It makes me wonder if Winston's going to be starting somewhere, or Daniel Jones. You kind of run out of 32 pretty quick,
There just aren't enough. And so, I do think that the Steelers, because of their situation, are they're in a better spot to get who they want.
As opposed to settling.
As opposed to, a team like the Jets, it's going to have to settle whatever they can get.
Yeah.
We're not in this position where we're going to be able to draft one.
Oh, yeah. Or if the Saints move on from Carr, who wants to go there?
I don't know if they can.
Yeah.
That doesn't save them any money.
After June 1st, cut's the only thing they can do. Their cap is so bad.
Their salary cap is unbelievable.
It's like unsavable.
Mickey Loomis, they must not have a salary cap guy there.
Right.
Because
they just kick the can year after year where it gets worse and worse.
They have like their top like 15 salaries on their roster.
Including Carr, who's the biggest
Including
one.
Carr. They've got like 2 of them that they can move on from and actually have cap savings.
Before June 1st,
the rest of them,
right.
they have to eat a bunch of cap.
Yeah.
And they're $40 million over the cap.
And they're $40 million over the cap, and they don't have a good roster, and they don't have very many good young players.
They could
really,
cut
really
all
bad.
They'd almost have to cut all their young players just to make it work.
Which, we've even talked about, okay, they shouldn't trade Chris Olave, but if they can save $7 million,
it's
somehow
like,
you have
it's like
to
$7 million in savings. That's like the biggest chunk that they can get.
Yeah, and they'll actually get a good pick for him. Okay,
I don't even know if they would at this point though, because of the concussion situation.
I'm saying, and you're selling them low too.
You might have to move him for like a 4.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's probably worth more than that.
Yeah, because all the stuff they can do, all the old guys on defense, Carr, after June 1st, they make a lot.
It's either that or they got to start adding voidable years onto all these guys, and then you're just kicking it further down the road.
Right. How long do you want to pay DeMario Davis and the Honey Badger and those guys? It's really bad.
Almost what they're going to have to do if they're not willing to do some of those things like that, like move on from Olave.
Yeah, and there aren't many others that you can do that with.
They don't have it. The other guys in their roster aren't making money.
Or desirable.
They were also trading away draft picks, draft capital. There were years where they only had 2 draft picks.
Yeah, a lot. They moved up for like Trevor Penning.
Yeah, they were aggressive in a draft. So you don't want to go down that route.
No, it's terrible. That cap space or cap situation in the Browns one to me is remarkably terrible. I don't think it's savable over the course of 2 years.
But hey, they went for it.
Yeah, right. I think those teams should truly
and they might be the 2 this year. Might be the 2 worst teams in the league.
Yeah, they may combine to win 3 games. I really think there's a chance those 2 teams are that bad, just because the things they have that are worth anything, they have to trade to get under the cap.
Yeah,
brutal.
It's you don't want to be in that situation, folks. You just don't.
No, it's going to be really bad for those teams.
But yeah,
even I thought before the trade deadline last year, trade Kamara to the Chiefs or something. They extended him and made him even a bigger cap problem. At least he was playing well. You might get a 5th round pick for him. They'll rent him for the rest of the year. Send him to Dallas.
He's off your books.
He's off your books, right? As opposed to now you owe him a bunch of money in the future, and he's a 30-year-old running back or whatever. What are you doing?
Yeah. There's a lot of funny stuff that happens on Bourbon Street,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just more of it.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. And that's the way they're structured. I mean, I always joke it's always Mardi Gras with the Saints, and they don't care about the hangover. The hangover's coming hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's this year.
Absolutely.
Which they should with the new coach. I mean, it's time to start over.
Yeah. Anyways, let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I'm Dale Lolley, and this is the Drive on the Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. Welcome back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, over the course of the last few weeks here, I had my reviews of the Steelers roster position groups. And one of the final ones I did was the quarterback position, for obvious reasons.
Sure.
And, I think when you look at the season as a whole, the Steelers, and people don't necessarily want to believe this, they got better quarterback play this year than what they got in 2023.
I would say for the last several years. I mean, really, since
since Roethlisberger retired. Yeah,
or maybe even since his arm injury, his elbow injury.
Yeah,
yeah, it was better. There's no question. It's not the best in the league, but it was better.
By the end of the season, they ended up averaging 192 passing yards per game. They had 21 touchdown passes and 6 interceptions,
which you'll take.
Yeah,
I mean, I'd like to see more passing touchdowns, but 21-6 is a pretty good ratio.
If you extrapolated Wilson's numbers over a 17-game season, he would have thrown 25 touchdown passes.
Yeah, right. Okay. I mean, that's kind of what we thought when we...
Eight interceptions, which is what we thought it was going to be.
We made a ton of jokes going in, like they may actually throw touchdown passes this year.
Yeah.
Well, they did.
They did.
Yeah, right.
Wilson averaged 225 passing yards per game.
Okay.
With his 16 touchdown passes and 5 interceptions. He also ran for 155 yards and 2 more touchdowns.
Yeah, yeah. So he was productive.
Yeah. Justin Fields averaged 184 passing yards per game and ran for 231 yards in his 5 starts. That's just what he averaged in his starts.
In his starts, okay.
Yeah.
The little bit he came in.
Yeah, I didn't count that in there.
I wouldn't.
And he had 5 more touchdowns. He threw 5 touchdown passes, and he ran for 5 touchdown passes.
Okay. Also, decent production.
Right.
I mean, again, getting more rushing yards from the quarterback position than you had in the past, too.
Right. That's, I think, what you have to weigh right now. So with Wilson, you averaged 40 more passing yards per game than what you got out of Fields. Fields, you averaged about 40 more rushing yards. I mean, it's just the way it works out.
Yeah. And which do you prefer?
Which way do you want to go? Which path do you want to choose?
Right. They don't have a lot of similarities as quarterbacks and where they're at in their career, skill set, ability to run, ability to throw, experience, pre-snap stuff. I mean, so it really is a stylistic decision too, as much as personality and fit and all that kind of stuff too. Which I don't think personality is a problem with either one of them. I think that's a strength for both the guys, right?
Another area where they were different, Wilson averaged 7.4 yards per pass attempt.
Okay.
Fields was at 6.9.
Yeah, it's a half a yard, but it's a pretty big difference.
They both had enough passes in there when it was all said and done. That's a meaningful difference.
It is.
Average yards per completion, Wilson was at 11.6. Fields was at 10.4.
Okay.
That's a pretty
big jump too.
That's
right?
a very significant difference. Now, again, you get the rushing capability from Fields.
Absolutely.
But I don't think it's arguable that Wilson gives you more of a downfield.
I think
attack.
He's still, and the tape shows this, he's still one of the better deep passers in the league. I mean, that I 100% believe. I think he's more accurate than given credit for, where actually maybe both of them are. I mean, I think Fields was a little more accurate here, just purely completions and ball placement and timing than at any point in his Bears career. Now, he basically had nowhere to go but up, to be honest. But people haven't noticed it enough with Fields' career, but there's a lot of key areas where every year he's taken at least a small step forward. I mean, he is getting better. Is it at a rapid enough rate? Is it comparable to Wilson as a passer? Not yet. I mean, it isn't. But Wilson's accuracy and some of the nerdy stats, like, accuracy above expectations and things like that were better than people think. He doesn't miss many. He doesn't miss many layups either.
Yeah. And so I understand why there's, again, there's two different approaches here to what you want to be in 2025 is really what this is about.
It's a lot of it, right?
Because if it's Fields, you're not going to run the same offense that you started out with last year. You're just not.
No, right. You're going to build everything around him.
Yeah.
If you sign him today, it's time to draft appropriately, free agent appropriate. Take Arthur Smith's playbook and add this chapter, throw this chapter away, that type of thing, because that's the way you're going to play football now, in a Eagles-like manner, I would think.
One thing that to me, I look at as well, if you look at George Pickens' production between the two quarterbacks,
it's very different.
It's drastically different. We can talk all day long about whether are they going to move on from George Pickens or not?
Right, but he's your best receiver right now.
He's your best receiver right now. Well, you're looking at games. He had 2 catches for 29 yards against the Denver Broncos. The Chargers, it was 5 for 57. He had 3 for 26 against the Cowboys. 3 for 53 against the Raiders.
There's not that 50-yarder on top of that.
Right.
That you saw a lot with Wilson.
Now he did have 7.
He did have one real stinker again.
He had 7 for 113 against Indianapolis, but you were behind in that game, and you had to throw for 300 yards. Whereas you look at the production with Wilson, it was a lot more steady.
Yeah, he had one real down game, but he was getting the ball more.
His real down game came because he dropped 3 passes in the game.
Exactly.
It was more him than it was anything else that happened.
Absolutely. And I don't know that Wilson looks for him more. I think he's still the first read on a lot of passes. Another thing about these numbers we need to never forget is they're one of the run heaviest teams in the league too. Their passing sample size isn't too small. I'm not implying that, but it's smaller than a lot of teams. They just don't have the attempts that many teams do.
Yeah, it's one thing. I wonder if that changes in 2025, or do they go more run heavy? If you look at it,
if they go Wilson, I bet it changes. In terms of, I bet the percentage goes up.
Yeah,
pass percentage.
And I think if you get a second wide receiver or second receiving option, who is more of a threat, that helps.
Oh, it absolutely helps.
How much attention was George Pickens getting for much of the year last year? A ton.
Right. A ton. Too much.
Yeah.
Too much, I think, is the answer, yeah.
And so, again, it depends on what path do they want to take here. Which story do they want to write?
Yeah.
In regards to this season, do they look at this and go, well, the Eagles had more rushing yards this season than passing yards?
Yeah, which is rare, but it worked.
But it was it was like 3,800 of both. It was 50-50, but they ran. It
still is an anomaly for today's NFL.
But you also had Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
And a quarterback who was running the ball
a ton, right?
A ton.
The best running teams have have really good running quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I don't know. If we just operate under the assumption it's going to come down to one of those 2 quarterbacks, the sooner you and I know, it'll be a heck of a lot easier for our job to be like, okay, now we know the fits. What type of receivers do they want? What their run pass percentage probably going to look like? What are they going to ask out of their O-line, et cetera, et cetera. And them too. Again, the combine's right around the corner. They don't have to make decision on draft picks, and they're accumulating all the data. But it would be helpful to know, what style of offense are we really going to dedicate ourselves to? What are we going to major in?
Yeah.
You
again, I don't know
now, but sooner the better.
And I look at, the production. They had some productive scoring games with Justin Fields. They did score 32 points against the Raiders.
Yeah.
But they also lost a 27-24 game to the Colts.
Yeah.
That was certainly winnable. They lost 20-17 to Dallas, and everybody blamed the defense because, they gave up the touchdown at the end. Well, that was Dallas without Micah Parsons. You got to score more than 17 points.
You got to score more.
They didn't have DeMarcus Lawrence in that game either.
Right. That looked like a very winnable game. Looking back at both those losses, Colts and Dallas, and that's how the league is. You're not going to just sweep everybody.
Right.
Of course. Not the favorites don't win every game. But you look at both those games and be like, kind of kicking yourself on those a little bit. And I thought so even Monday on both those games. Like, they were really winnable.
Yeah.
Much more so than Eagles-Chiefs, the down the stretch losses. Those were games the Steelers might have been a better team in.
Yeah.
Even on that day.
Anyways, let's get to another break. That's going to do it for hour number 1 of the drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with hour number 2 right after this. And we are back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and this is hour number 2 of the drive. And Matt, I don't know if you saw this, and it came out a couple of days ago, but friend of the show, Cynthia Frelund, has put out her first official mock draft.
Oh, I'm sure she has a different spin on it.
Hers is very analytically driven,
yeah.
So it's a different kind of look at the draft itself.
That's a different curveball for us for this segment. Let's do it.
So let's look at what Cynthia has.
Wonder if she'll be joining us in a couple of weeks. Usually she does.
Usually she does.
Yeah.
That's why she's a friend of the show.
Absolutely.
So she has the Tennessee Titans at 1, taking Travis Hunter.
Okay. I think that's quite possible, or trading out, or,
Yeah. At 2, she has the Browns taking Abdul Carter.
Okay. Again, quite possible. I mean, especially if Garrett's gone. And
Yeah. At 3, she has the Giants taking Cam Ward.
Okay. That's actually my exact same 3 so far, too. I did.
Okay.
Last night. Yeah.
You're analytically driven with your
mock
right. draft. At 4, she has the Patriots taking Will Campbell, the offensive tackle from LSU.
I think going O-line there makes a ton of sense, and it makes more sense to me, kind of like the Chargers a year ago, taking the first O-lineman versus the first or second, wide receiver, neighbors in that point. I'd probably go O-line. My problem with him is I just don't know he's a tackle. If he's going to be a guard or a center.
They can really use everything on their offensive line.
Right now,
but
and I'm sure they'll fill a hole or two. But
at the same time, one offensive lineman isn't going to get it done for them.
No, it's a start. But
they're probably going to have to dip into the free agent market on the offensive line. They get all kinds of cap space.
Yeah.
To me, that's why when I see them, they got to go get T. Higgins. They got to spend on their offensive line first.
That would be my priority. But
you got to protect Drake May.
You hate to build an O-line in free agency, though. But you better get 2 in free agency.
Yeah, because, even if you draft Will Campbell, you probably still need 2 more guys
I would
to fill out that line.
It's that bad.
And that's not going to be cheap.
No, it's not going to be cheap at all, right.
At 5, the Jacksonville Jaguars take Jahdae Barron, cornerback out of Texas.
Okay.
I love him.
I love him, too. Obviously, it's the highest we've seen him. Do it all.
Takes the ball away. He can play a bunch of different spots.
Yeah, and because it's Cynthia doing it, I have noticed a lot of the analytically driven analysts out there are really putting more and more of an emphasis on slots, Branch, guys like that, that it's going to probably become not a premium position, but a more premium position than not. It used to be an afterthought.
He's different to me from some of the other guys that we've liked as the pure slot guys, because he's played outside, he's played safety. He's big enough. He's 5'11", 200 pounds, so he's big enough to move outside. But I think his best role is in the slot,
like a DeJean.
Yeah,
in a way. DeJean was an outside corner that projected better to slot.
And people said he was a safety simply because. I think largely because of his skin color.
I think a lot of it, right? Yeah.
That's
but
just
he's best in the slot. Yeah. And I do think a lot of these defenses are saying, just give me my 5 best defensive backs and I'll figure out the puzzle,
Yeah. And there are a lot of teams like the Buffalo Bills, for example, they just live in their nickel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So he would.
And now the Eagles do since DeJean's been so good.
A full-time starter, yeah. At 6, the Raiders take Tyler Booker, the guard from Alabama.
That one doesn't add up to me because analytically speaking, I'm not using a high pay. If you're looking at dollars and cents,
yeah.
Maybe the way she's looking at it was their guard play was their weakest position, and this guy upgrades you, But that one doesn't add up to me. He's a fine player.
Yeah, but it's 6.
Wow.
At 7, she has the Jets taking Will Johnson, the cornerback from Michigan.
Okay. The one concern with him, I was actually just listening. We talked about it yesterday. Dane put out his top 100.
Yeah.
Dane usually joins us at the Combine, too. He was on the Athletic podcast that I was listening to on the way here, and he said, I think he had Johnson at like 14 or 15 on that list because he said, talking to people in the league, they don't think he's going to run, and they're just not sure how
They
fast
don't know
he
he's
is.
going to run well enough.
Right. It's just all about 40 time, basically.
He might be a 4.55 guy.
You're right. But,
that's fine.
Maybe that's why he's on a top 5 pick. But
Right.
Maybe that's why he's 15,
And a lot of that kind of stuff, with some of the, again, next-gen stats and things
the
like that,
zebra stuff and all that, too.
They have ideas about that stuff.
Yeah. And I bet a lot of teams are more interested in the miles per hour and the zebras tracking than they are in 40s, and they should be by now. But it's hard to sell to your owner.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 75-year-old guy writing checks that, my corner ran a 4, 5, 6. I'm going to take it the first round,
Yeah. At 8, she has the Carolina Panthers taking Michael Williams, the edge rusher out of Georgia.
Okay. There's a lot of steam about him right now.
At 9, she has the New Orleans Saints taking Shedeur Sanders, quarterback out of Colorado.
I would understand it. I mean, I don't think Carr's going to be there. I mean, I don't think it does him any good, although the cap ramifications don't really kick in until, down the road. But, boy, that'd be asking a lot of Sanders. You know what I mean? I mean, I just hate throwing quarterbacks in situations where they're likely to fail
Unwinnable,
before you even right.
At 10, she has the Bears taking Armand Membu, the offensive lineman out of Missouri.
I think his stock's going to start to really increase, too. That we're going to start seeing him in those couple picks, that Bears, Niners, Dolphins range.
Yeah. 11, she has the San Francisco 49ers taking Mason Graham, the defensive tackle out of Michigan.
Nice value there. Yeah.
At 12, the Cowboys take Ashton Genty, the running back from Boise State.
I don't know that they will. I mean, that's an easy landing spot for him, and he's really good. I don't think Dowdell's terrible. And
He's a free agent, though.
Oh, is he? I thought he was restricted.
No, he's a free agent.
Oh, is he? Okay. Well, then maybe.
At 13, the Dolphins take Malachi Starks, the safety out of Georgia.
Oh, Holland's up.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be back.
No, they're thinking he's going to make like $20 million a year.
Yeah. The 14, the Colts take Tyler Warren, the Penn State tight end.
Mm-hmm. That's about where he starts really heating up with a good spot.
At 15, the Falcons take Jalen Walker, the other Georgia edge rusher.
Okay. Yeah. Edge and Falcons, sure.
Yeah. 16, the Cardinals take James Pierce Jr., Tennessee
Another
edge rusher.
Yeah. Sears like these edge rushers start falling.
Yeah. The Bengals at 17 take Tedero McMillan, the Arizona wide receiver.
I'd be shocked if he lasts that long, of course. I don't even think he's special. I mean, I think he's a really good prospect.
He's
but
6'5", 212. I mean, he's tough to deal with.
I mean, he's going to be the top receiver off the board, Hunter aside.
At 18, the Seahawks take Donovan Jackson, offensive lineman from Ohio State.
I think O-line makes all the sense in the world for them.
At 19, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers go edge with Mike Green out of Marshall.
Yep. A linebacker could be a play, too, but edges are harder to find.
20, the Denver Broncos take Colston Loveland, the tight end out of Michigan.
That's actually who I had him take, too. Everyone has him going to the Chargers. I'm like, I don't know if the Broncos could pass on him if Warren's gone.
Yeah.
That's a nice safety blanket for Knicks. Peyton has a nice history using the Jimmy Grahams of the world, and I think that'd be a real good fit.
Yeah.
They don't have a ton of massive needs.
At 21, she has the Patriots taking Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver out of Ohio State. Bob Labriola's head would spin.
His Steelers taking Egbuka?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I got my wires crossed.
Because only one defensive tackle is gone at this point.
Yeah.
Like, that would be a...
I do think there's some discrepancy of who's DT2. I think you and I think it's Nolan.
Yeah.
But I would take Nolan in that situation.
At 22, she has the Chargers taking Josiah Stewart, edge rusher out of Michigan.
DJ's really high on him, too. Had him like 30th in his top 50. A little bit shorter. I'm not saying he's James Harrison, but he's one of those leverage problem guys. And he doesn't get often talked about amongst the top
Harbaugh
edges.
guy.
Harbaugh guy, right. Well, Khalil Mack's probably not going to be back.
Right. 23, the Packers take Walter Nolan, defensive tackle out of Mississippi. There's your number 2 defensive tackle.
Yep. I'm a big fan.
At 24, the Vikings take Benjamin Morrison, Notre Dame cornerback.
Corner is a easy slot one for them.
At 25, the Texans take Matthew Golden, wide receiver out of Texas.
I would 100% understand that. I mean, they're trying to be built around a 3-receiver.
And they don't have 3 right now.
They have 1 right now,
yeah.
with Diggs being a free agent and Dell being hurt.
26, the Rams take Josh Simmons, the offensive tackle out of Ohio State.
Mm-hmm. Their left tackle's up. I don't think he'll last that long.
27, the Ravens take Kelvin Banks Jr., the Texas offensive tackle.
See, I look at him and think that's where he belongs. I mean, a lot of people had him in like top 5 buzz or.
I think he gets pushed up into the top 20 just because he's a tackle.
He's a tackle. I'm not sure he's a tackle, though. I mean, is he 6'4.5"? I mean,
you try
he
him out
probably
there.
will. Yeah, but he's similar to Campbell to me. Campbell's better, but.
At the very, I mean, they could for the Ravens, for example, they could take Rosengarten, move him to the left side, and plug Banks in on the right side, and just say, okay,
yeah,
we're run heavy anyways. So.
No, that's not bad.
At 28, the Lions take Jack Sawyer, Ohio State edge rusher.
Okay, seems early for him. I mean,
well, that's like the 7th
they're
or 8th
all going
edge.
fast, though. Yeah, and they definitely want one opposite Hutchinson, and he's returning from injury.
29, the Commanders take Luther Burden, the 3rd.
Wide receivers are a pretty big need for them. I mean, it's kind of McLaurin and nobody else.
The Bills then at 30 take Kenneth Grant, the Michigan defensive tackle.
I like their D-line, but it lacks beef.
Yeah.
And
he's beefy.
Yeah.
At 31, the Chiefs take Azareye'h Thomas, cornerback out of Florida.
I don't think end of the first round is insane for him. I mean, he's
got size,
traits and man coverage background, and I don't know if the Chiefs cannot go offense, though.
And then at 32, the Eagles take Shamar Stewart, Texas A&M. She lists him as an edge.
Yeah. They'd move him all over probably.
Yeah.
I bet he goes well before that, but I think also some sort of D lineman there makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. In this scenario, I'm taking Walter Nolan.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I'd be very happy about it.
Yeah.
It would have worked out quite well.
And realistically, and again, we just did our first mock drafts. I don't know that he lasts to the Steelers.
It worries me more and more that because people are going to want D tackles. We're not leaving this draft without a defensive tackle. And the Steelers are probably one of those teams too. That you start getting to 15-ish, 14, Bengals, some of those teams too. It's like, this guy's got all the upside in the world. He's very strong. He's very quick. There's a lot of moldable clay here. Yeah, I like the ones on day 2, but he's got more upside than those guys.
Yeah.
I'm also not sure the Oregon dude, Harmon. is going to get out of the first round either. The more you think about it. Yeah. I mean, it's just watch the Super Bowl.
It's the Planet Theory.
Yeah, watch the Super Bowl.
Big guys who can run.
And rush the passer.
Yeah.
Big interior pass rushers.
To me, Grant's going to be the guy who could benefit the most at the Combine.
Yeah. I wonder, we've talked about this a lot, though. How will everyone view him? I mean, there might be total different views on him. Is he just a nose?
That's what I'm saying. He could go to if he goes to the Combine and doesn't run a 5.3 40.
Right.
Like he's right around 5 seconds and he shows some explosion and he moves well in the like people are going to say, okay, I think he can. Maybe if we get him to drop 10 pounds. Or,
yeah. I mean, I certainly think you could make the argument that he's better than Jordan Davis was.
Yeah.
Who ran really, really well. Didn't he run like a 4.7 or something crazy?
Something like that. And that production hasn't matched up.
No, not at all. I mean, and he's a good – Davis is a big strider, and when he opens it up, he really was impressive, but that's not how you play that position.
Davis is a guy, and I know I've gotten this question about it. Do you think that the Steelers would be interested in signing one of these Philadelphia guys down the line here when – I think he has benefited from playing next to Carter.
Davis isn't a success story.
I don't think
the
so
other
either.
guys are, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if that wasn't as deep a D line, he'd get exposed over and over and over. And he has not been worth a mid-first round pick.
No, I think, what did he go, 13th or something like that?
He was gone before the Steelers picked in the Pickett draft.
Yeah.
And that was 20th, so he was well gone.
Yeah.
No, that has not been a home run. The other Georgia guys are panning out well.
Plays like 50% of the snaps.
Yeah, and he plays too high, and it's kind of like the Kentucky dude, Walker. There's some snaps where, whoa, he hammers you.
But there's no consistency.
There's no consistency. And I do like, what's his face, the Michigan guy we were just talking about. But there's some of that too. I
Yeah.
mean, these guys that are giants, sometimes they pop right straight up and they go nowhere,
Yeah. So you got to coach that out of him.
Yeah.
But he is a massive human being.
Yeah, he is. He can run, and I think he will test well.
Yeah. I do think Shamar Stewart is going to test well.
Coaches are going to love him.
Yeah. Because he's going to look the part, and then you start looking into him a little bit. Why did the production not match the...
I mentioned that podcast I listened to. There was all D tackles. And I thought they brought up a really good point because they have 3 pretty highly draftable D linemen.
Right.
None of whom really produced. Like Michigan has that issue. What are they being asked to do? Like Scourton was a dynamo at Purdue. They put 10 or 15 pounds on him, and he just kind of holds the point and doesn't do that stuff. That's the beauty of the combine and stuff. Let's sit down with this guy and show him 5 plays. What's your assignment on this play? Just funnel everything inside, or we're trying to wreak havoc and you couldn't. I just find
I watched Scourton early in the season, and he did wreak havoc.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just amazed at the when you look at the final numbers, it wasn't more than
it wasn't
what he
more,
did.
right? Because he's capable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think all 3 of those guys are kind of interesting. That maybe their best production days are ahead of them.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be. Anyways, let's get to a break. That was Cynthia Frelund's mock draft, her analytics mock draft on NFL.com. Maybe we'll talk to Cynthia about that. Maybe she'll have another one that comes out.
We have quite a few years in a row, right?
Before the she drops by on one of our shows.
Mm-hmm.
I think I missed her last year. You guys did her in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Anyways, he is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, except no imitations. And Matt, Nick Shook has put out his final quarterback rankings for the 2024 season.
Oh, okay.
On NFL.com.
I was thinking draft them. Okay. Let's
ranking
do it. Yeah.
all 59 players
59
who
All right.
started at quarterback this year. It's actually way
That's
down.
actually way down. Okay. I
They were
mean,
upwards of like 70 the last couple of years.
I'd say it's been more than like 10 more over the last couple of years. It felt a lot more, less watered down, I guess you'd say. I didn't know what the number was till just now. Okay.
So at number 59,
Who?
Deshaun Watson.
I wonder how low he is. I almost said it. I bet he's not the worst quarterback that played. Terrible. I mean, he'd be low. I mean, I'm curious. There had to be some bad one.
7 games, he averaged 5.3 yards per attempt.
I mean, at least this year there wasn't like the COVID year where a wide receiver had to play quarterback or something like that.
It's not that.
Yeah, right.
But
he was horrible. Their offense was the worst offense in the league when he was in there.
yeah, that's what made the vote for Alex Van Pelt as assistant coach of the year.
Yeah.
A little questionable.
He didn't overcome that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
58, Tommy DeVito.
That's who he is.
Yeah.
It was a cute story a year or two ago,
Yeah.
Tommy Cutlets or whatever.
Yeah. That's the thing. Why do the New York media always have to give somebody a nickname?
The Danny
You
Dimes
got to
makes
do
me
something
crazy.
to get a
Right.
nickname, damn it.
I know.
You can't stink and get a nickname unless
Right.
it's Tommy Stinky Face. 57, Carson Wentz.
I guess he started the last game with. I mean, Creed Humphrey wasn't blocking for him, and
Yeah, that's rough.
It's not like you're going to put him at 20, though.
But he didn't play well.
He didn't do anything. That was the
He
biggest
started
sham
a
of
game
game.
and still and played in 3 games and still finished with 118 passing yards.
Yeah.
He was bad in that game.
Yeah.
56, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who, as we sit here today,
He's
could
penciled
be,
in, right?
could be your Browns starter
Yep.
in 2025.
He's pretty terrible.
Yeah.
He really is.
He had played in 7 games, completed 51.7% of his passes,
I bet his ADOT was low, too.
3.7 yards per pass attempt,
Yeah.
0 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and 3 fumbles.
Wow. Yeah. Will he be on the team next year? I mean, he has as good a chance to not make the team as he is to be the starter, honestly.
He's probably going to make the team because he's a cheap quarterback.
Which is why he was drafted to begin with, because they invested so much in Watson.
But he's bad.
He's been horrible.
Yeah. 55. He's now a member of your Pittsburgh Steelers. Skylar Thompson.
Okay. How often did he play?
He must have started one game for somebody.
Okay.
I guess, he did start a game against Seattle for the Dolphins.
For the Miami,
in Seattle.
Okay. I mean, we'll see.
54. This guy might have been lower for me. Jake Haener.
Oh, he's pretty terrible,
46.2% of his passes.
He looks like a high school player to me.
Yeah.
I mean, or a coach.
53 is Desmond Ridder.
He's flat out terrible, too.
Yeah.
When you talk about bad accuracy, I don't think he's ever going to get it.
52, Trey Lance.
Gotta. I mean, I don't know if his story's written, but he hasn't done anything.
There's several chapters.
Yeah. Oh, they're pretty deep into it now.
51, Bailey Zappi.
Yeah, he has no arm strength at all.
50, Brandon Allen with the 49ers.
I was trying to think team on that one.
That's why I mentioned it.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. I didn't realize he was even their number 2.
Yeah. 49, Josh Dobbs started the game for the 49ers this year.
I root for him, but that's who he is.
48, Tanner McKee.
I think he's got a chance to stick in the league. That's the first one I have a little bit of optimism for.
47, Kenny Pickett.
Okay. I'm glad they put them next to each other because I'm not sure the Eagles don't like McKee better.
46, Jimmy Garoppolo.
He could be shot. Probably will be in the league again, but it's getting to the point where that's a question.
Yeah.
Same with Wentz, for that matter.
45, Drew Lock.
A couple teams have liked him in the offseason and pursued him, and I don't understand why.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. At 44, Jacoby Brissett.
I had higher hopes at one point, but I'm a fan. He could be my backup all day long.
5.1 yards per attempt.
He doesn't move well enough is part of the problem.
At 43, Andy Dalton.
He had a short stint there when he relieved Young and did okay.
At 42, Mac Jones.
Wasn't horrific for the Jags.
See, now if somebody had said the Steelers had called the Jaguars about Mac Jones, and I don't think he's under contract. But
no, he's up. Yeah. He's a free agent.
But if somebody had said, well, the Steelers inquired about Mac Jones, that would have been more believable.
That'd be more believable because it's not a $100 bazillion cap hit. You know. He's another one, though, that he doesn't move well enough.
Yeah, everything has to be just right around him. 41, Mason Rudolph.
That's fine. I mean, that's who he is.
Yeah.
He's the 40th best quarterback out there.
At 40, Joe Flacco.
I don't know that Levis was better than Rudolph.
I don't know that he is either.
Yeah.
The production wasn't better.
No, right. That's fine with Flacco. He's another one I wonder if he's going to be back.
I disagree with this one a great deal. 39, Spencer Rattler.
He'd definitely be lower. I think there's a good chance he's our starter next year.
Ugh.
Right.
That's
how you tank.
Not good. In his defense, they had no weapons around him.
Oh, no, the receivers at that point were bad.
He happened to be better than Jake Haener.
Exactly.
You know.
I mean, I'd rather take my chance with Rattler than Haener, but that was a question there for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Who we start between these two. And it was his rookie year. I mean, he's not, he'll be in the league for a while.
At 38, Cooper Rush.
That's a solid backup. That's a Rudolph-like backup that you can win games with. I mean, he was forced to play more than you want.
He had 9 fumbles in 12 games.
Really?
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
37, Daniel Jones.
Okay. Will he be higher or lower than that next year?
Yeah.
He's gonna get. I bet he gets in games next year somehow.
Games.
Yeah, right.
I don't have any doubt about that.
Yeah.
But kind of who he is. 36, Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, that's that neighborhood.
He is what he is. 35, Anthony Richardson.
That's fair.
That's
absolutely fair.
I mean, you get 11-game sample this year.
Yeah, it wasn't like he got hurt. I mean, that rookie year, he didn't finish one game.
Yeah. 47.7% completion percentage. 8 touchdown passes, 12 interceptions, and, oh, by the way, 9 fumbles in 11 games.
And was benched. Like Bryce Young, and wasn't really better when he came back.
Yeah.
He had some highlight plays, but they were all like week 1.
Yeah, it was.
Remember all the bombs to like Pierce?
Very uneven. And, every once in a while he'll hit one. But
I still think he's their opening day starter next year.
Yeah, because what they spent on him, that doesn't mean that he's any good.
No, it doesn't. But it does make me a little crazy that you draft him you have to know he's a project.
Yeah.
You know, and boy, he is.
34 is Tyler Huntley.
That might be rich.
That's
but
pretty rich for me. Again,
right.
5 games, completed 64.7% of his passes, which is fine.
Yeah.
But it's all sideways.
I'll take my chances
sideways.
with Minshew or Rudolph, maybe.
3 touchdown passes, 3 interceptions, 135 rushing yards, and 6 fumbles.
I know he's not great, but I'd put Daniel Jones over every name we've mentioned so far.
Yeah.
I mean, he's had success as a starter to some degree.
Put him over this next guy at 33, Will Levis.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones is better than Will Levis.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you told me one of those two had to lead the Steelers next year, I'm taking Daniel Jones.
God.
I mean, it's not ideal.
I'm driving my car into the Mon. 32, Jameis Winston.
I almost said Levis is Winston.
Is Winston a starter in the league next year?
I'm leaning towards yes, because 32 names are hard to come by.
I know.
You know, I'm at least he's going to be him and Jackson Dart battling it out. You know, one of those type of deals. I still think he can win games.
Yeah, he can also lose you games.
Yeah,
I mean he's shown that over the course. I mean, he's not a young man anymore. He's in year 10.
It has to be his 10th year.
His 10th year in the league, and he has shown that he is a roller coaster ride.
Yeah,
and sometimes it's fun. Sometimes it's not so much fun.
And I'm sure he's been brought up to you as, you know, bring him here. Tomlin could not handle the turnovers. I mean, and nor should he.
No,
you know, for the way the Steelers are constructed, not here. I'm not sure where though.
I'm not sure either.
And maybe he holds place down for the Jets, you know, and they kind of tank it or something, you know.
Yeah. 31, Malik Willis.
They managed him well.
Yeah.
I think he's a semi-success story considering how lost he was.
No turnovers last year. He appeared in 7 games.
That's the beauty of it.
No turnovers.
He didn't lose it for him.
Yeah.
I would take my chances to win a game with Winston or Jones over.
Oh yeah, I mean they've done it before, more than him. But yeah, I mean.
But what he put on tape wasn't bad.
But you have to play a very specific way with him.
Yeah, yeah.
30, Michael Penix.
Small sample size. I think people got a little too excited about him. It wasn't all roses.
No.
But it's a good start.
He showed some flashes.
Yeah, yeah.
29, Aiden O'Connell.
It's about who he is too.
Yeah.
I'd take him over Minshew, you know, right now.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, right now he's the Raiders' opening day starter if they don't do anything else at quarterback.
Right.
28, Caleb Williams. I think the overall numbers look better than actually what he did on the field.
Mm-hmm. There were some highlights. I mean, if you just watch his highlight tape, you'd think he's number 10.
But boy, the lowlights are just, I mean, some of the
sack
game management and things of that nature were not good.
I know he was a great prospect, and I understand that. But at USC, everybody blamed him. Oh, the terrible lineman. I'm like, USC can't get linemen? I mean, maybe it's a down year for USC linemen, but it's not like he's at Kent playing Ohio State every week.
Right.
I mean, he should have adequate linemen at USC, and he took a ton of sacks.
Took a ton of sacks, 10 fumbles. He had 20 touchdown passes and 6 interceptions. Mm-hmm. But I think he had a 5 touchdown pass game or something like that.
There was a game or two where it's like, oh, okay, I see it.
He's figured it out. And then you watch him later in the season, you're like.
I'm not particularly worried about his career, but it wasn't the best first chapter.
It wasn't smooth sailing.
No.
By any stretch.
I mean, offensive coordinator got fired halfway through the year, too. I mean, head coach got fired. 27,
Justin Fields.
I think I'd take him over everybody mentioned. You know, for what they did last year. I mean, I'd rather go forward with Caleb Williams, but that's not the question.
Yeah. At 26, Trevor Lawrence.
It's been rough. It's been rough.
Bad year.
He's had a bad stretch. I mean, you can explain a lot of it away, but there's some bad tape and turnovers and are problematic.
Yeah. He's just inconsistent. And you would expect by now, I mean, this was year 4.
He needs to be a step ahead of that.
You would expect, for a guy who was had drafted as highly as he was, that he would be more like he's closer to Sam Bradford than he is. Actually, he'd be better off being Sam Bradford.
It's funny you brought up Sam Bradford because I almost just did, because the first 4 years of Bradford's career were similar. They're not the same type of player, but I could be the prosecuting attorney or the defense attorney and have probably an equal case. Like they've had to overcome a lot, but they sure aren't what we thought they were with the first overall pick.
No.
I'm hoping Caleb Williams doesn't do the same thing,
Right.
But that's not uncommon.
25 is Kirk Cousins.
There was a stretch he wasn't so terrible. I mean, it's easy to remember
if you look at just the final numbers,
I bet they're decent.
14 games, 66.9% completion percentage, 3,500 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, 6 interceptions.
Yeah. I'm not implying
they have him with 531 rushing yards. That is a mistake.
There's no way
it had to be closer to 53.
Yeah. There's no way he had 500
They also had him for
yards.
12 rushing touchdowns. I don't know whose stats they got in there for Kirk Cousins.
He
He didn't have 531 rushing yards and 12 touchdown rushing in his career.
I wonder if his passing numbers are correct then. Is it the wrong face on the... I think he'll be one of the 32 starters. I'm not implying the Steelers should grab him at the league minimum, but I bet he's one of the 32 starters.
I would guess so, but he also might be shot.
It could be.
At 24, Derek Carr.
It's about right. I like him slightly more than that, but...
I mean, if you just look at his final numbers, again, you're just looking at the numbers. It was 10 games, 67.7% completion percentage, 2,145 passing yards, 7.7 yards per attempt. I mean, he was throwing it down the field a little bit this year.
Oh, yeah.
With Shaheed. 15 touchdown passes, 5 interceptions, 71 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown, only 3 fumbles. I mean, he took care of the football.
The back of his football card always looks a little bit better than the tape, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it just always is with him, because there's a lot of 3rd and 8s that he throws at the 5 yards downfield. But I still think he should probably be a little higher on that list. I mean, he's a professional starting quarterback. I bet a lot of those numbers came those first 2 weeks. Remember those first 2 weeks? They put up like 80 points and took the world by storm, and then but
the best offense ever, and then
right.
Yeah.
But if we say this about Rattler and those guys too, he didn't have much around him late in the year either.
Yeah.
Everybody
early in the year they did though.
They did.
23. Russell Wilson.
I'd have him over everyone listed. Didn't end great. We all know that.
Yeah.
Accuracy's better than you think. I'd probably have him higher.
22. Aaron Rodgers.
He finished a lot better than people want to remember. I mean, their season was shot, but his last couple games padded his stats quite a bit. But they count.
Yeah. He's also the king of the 1-yard touchdown pass, and he threw some of those to get those touchdown passes up.
I think Wilson had a better year.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
21. Drake May. Now,
that's a tough eval.
I'm a fan of Drake May.
I love him.
I think he's going to be a good quarterback.
You have nothing around you though.
He's still in 13 games threw 10 interceptions and had 9 fumbles.
Oh, I know. I mean, there's still a lot of volatility to him, and that was even true at North Carolina. I mean, that's who he is. I would love to build a team around him, but if we were just evaluating 2024 tape,
he'd be lower on the list.
I don't know if the Steelers win more games with him than they do Wilson.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, again, if it's who you want to have moving forward,
then he's much higher on the list.
Right.
Yeah.
20, Bo Nix.
Started slow, but ended up being quite a success story. I mean, a lot of his bad numbers are those first couple weeks.
Yeah. I still think it's just very much the offense that...
He's more of a risk taker, though, than like a Carr, and he's a much better athlete.
No, he's a better athlete than I thought he was, for sure, 19, Dak Prescott.
Ooh, how many games did he play?
8.
Oh, I was thinking it was like 5 or 6.
In 8 games, he threw for 1,978 yards, averaged 6.9 yards per pass attempt, 11 touchdowns, 8 interceptions.
I'd say he had a lot of turnovers.
And also had 4 fumbles.
Seems like a million years ago since he played.
So he basically averaged a turnover and a half per game.
Yeah, I know it was high this year. Usually it's not that insane. I don't know where I'd put him.
Wasn't great, though.
No, it wasn't.
18 is Tua Tagovailoa.
Okay. They had no running game. That's about fair.
17, Kyler Murray.
Yeah, and I bet Arizona's not thrilled about that.
I don't think
deep
they
down.
would be either, yeah.
You know, like, you need to
Took him number 1 overall, and if you look at his rankings per year, 2019 he was 13th. 2020 he was 10th. 2021 he was 8th. 2022 16th. 2023 23rd.
I feel like he needs to be 8th, 10th, 12th.
To be, yeah.
You know.
Now, I think they're probably happier with him than maybe what the Jaguars are with Trevor Lawrence right now.
Probably. But I kind of trust Lawrence. If either one's going to ever be a top 8 guy,
Yeah.
that I think Lawrence that still has a better chance. Kyler seems like he is who he is.
He's kind of plateaued, yeah.
Yeah, and his size is a problem.
Yeah. 16, Bryce Young.
Wow.
I don't know if I have Bryce Young this high.
The beginning was so bad.
The beginning was really bad.
It was so
he
bad.
got benched for
Right.
Andy Dalton.
He
played,
finished at about 16.
He played okay. It wasn't like, it's groundbreaking, but 16 is...
The last 2 months or so were quite good. We're 16-ish.
Yeah.
But if you look at the whole body of work, I mean, he was like 50th.
Yeah, I don't know that he's necessarily out of the woods yet.
I lean towards he is.
I think he's better.
Yeah.
But he might be closer to Kyler Murray than he is breaking into the top 10.
Agreed with that. I don't know if he's going to be ever a top 10 guy.
15, C.J. Stroud.
I feel for him a little bit, but he was as much of the problem as he was the answer. But, boy, they couldn't pick up a blitz or a stunt or do anything. I'm not worried about him.
14, Brock Purdy.
Fair.
Wasn't as good this year.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. He didn't have all the weapons around him, and suddenly he didn't look like the second coming of Tom Brady.
I don't have a problem where he's ranked, though.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
13 is Sam Darnold.
That's fair. I mean,
his highest ranking in his career. He was 24, 26, 36, 42, 38, 55, 13. Hut.
I'm not going to hold the last 2 games against him so much. I mean, he had 15 very, very good games.
12 is Geno Smith.
That's fine. I think he's criminally underrated. So that's about where he belongs.
A lot of interceptions, though.
He does. They didn't run the ball with a lick either.
Which is surprising because they have 2 good backs.
They do, but interior line's bad, and I think their college coordinator was overmatched.
11, Justin Herbert.
Yeah, he needs to be 5, but that's about where he was this year.
Yeah.
Plays a lot of injuries.
10 is Jordan Love.
They need him to be a little higher, too, but I think he's slowly trending there.
Yeah. Too many mistakes.
Yeah, he's a bit of a roller coaster.
9, Jalen Hurts.
Okay. I don't know how much they're going to wait the Super Bowl, and it's not just a regular season award, I imagine. It came out today.
We didn't talk about this. He shouldn't have been the MVP of the Super Bowl.
No.
But
I would have given it to Sweat.
You would have had to pick somebody off that defense.
That's the thing, is they all kind of cancel each other. There's not one that stood out more than the other.
Yeah.
I thought Hurts played a fine game.
Sweat would probably have been my vote.
Yeah, mine too.
But 8, Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, that's the lowest I would have him.
7, Patrick Mahomes.
That's the kind of season he had.
Yeah.
I mean, no deep presence.
He did finish with 4,600 passing yards and 31 touchdowns. We're talking about this like he had a down year.
Yeah, right. And that is kind of a down year.
It's his lowest.
Matches his
lowest ranking in his career.
Still pretty good, yeah.
6, Baker Mayfield.
He had a really good year.
There's still 2 men.
He's closer to Geno than
the volatility.
He is. I mean, yeah.
18 games, he had 16 interceptions and 14 fumbles. And that reared its head in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They're playing well, and then all of a sudden he decides to jam the ball into the cross, into somebody's
I wouldn't
hip.
be real comfortable if he was my starting quarterback.
No.
I mean, you could do a lot worse.
He had a good season. I'm not taking anything away from him, but 6?
No.
Ahead of Patrick Mahomes?
Right. I mean, I would have ahead of Herbert.
Who would you rather play against?
Right, yeah, right.
5, Jaden Daniels.
Every bit of it.
4, Jared Goff.
I'd probably have Daniels ahead of Goff.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I mean, factor in the running.
3, Joe Burrow.
Yeah, the top 3, I think, are heads above everybody else for what they did this year.
2, Josh Allen, and 1, Lamar Jackson.
Okay. Yeah, those 3 had the best 3 years easily.
Hard to believe. Like Lamar in 2021 was 14. In 2022, he was 12.
Where was Allen? I bet he was really low a year or two.
Allen's gone 32 after his rookie year. 18, 5, 3, 4, 2.
Yeah, now he's top 5 every year. Yeah. Okay. Was Mahomes 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 8, something like that?
No, Mahomes was. You're looking at. Let's see here. Mahomes didn't start. They didn't rank him in 2017.
Okay. Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 7, 1, 3. So he's only been 1 twice.
Really? Okay.
There can be only 1. It's like the Highlander.
I mean, there's some Brady years in there. Rodgers won an MVP or 2 in that stretch. Yeah. I mean, people have big years.
Yeah. So
Lamar was MVP
a
year ago. You know?
Yeah. It's hard to be number 1.
It is. It is.
As we find out, only one team gets to win the Super Bowl, and only one quarterback gets to be ranked number 1.
Yeah.
That was Nick Shook's rankings.
I agree with most
NFL.
of it. It's not an easy rank.
No, it's not.
That's a tough project there.
You're talking about some guys that have some very short windows, and
even like Dak Prescott. Where do you put him?
Ranking Bryce Young. Oh, okay. You have to look at the entire picture there.
Yeah, yeah. Some guys got to play into the playoffs. Some didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, let's get to a break. He is Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back to finish up the show right after this. And we are back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and this is The Drive, and you can hear The Drive every Monday through Wednesday right here on these very airwaves from 4 to 6 p.m.
Monday through Wednesday.
Monday through.
Yeah, every day, baby.
Monday
Come
through
on.
Friday.
Yes.
I was thinking about combine stuff, too. I'm like, well, it's not going to be the combine week, and then I misspoke. But you can also download the Steelers mobile app and get the show on there and all the breaking news as it happens. You can also watch the show on our YouTube channel, and we appreciate when you do that. Go ahead and leave us comments. Matt, looking here at the salary cap status here for the teams in the league. You mentioned that the Patriots have a lot of cap space, $121 million in cap space.
Pretty crazy.
They have 54 players currently under contract. So you have some other teams out there. For example, Vegas is at $92 million. They also have 54 players under contract.
Okay.
Washington,
the number under contract matters.
That matters.
Yeah.
For example, Washington has 46 players under contracts, but they have the third most salary cap space at 79.5, but you have 8 fewer players under contract. So therefore,
I think they have like 28 free agents that played prominent roles or something like that too. So I mean, some of these dudes under contract aren't going to make the team.
The Chargers are fourth with $65 million in cap space. They have 45 players under contract.
Okay, that's sort of a low number too.
Yeah. You get Chicago with $64.8 million. They have 48 players under contract. The Arizona Cardinals have $63 million in cap space. They have 60 players under contract.
Wow. Good for them.
Yeah.
I mean, again, they're not all stars, and they're not
so
all
there's going to be more cap displacement
right.
and signings, and this guy goes. So they actually have more cap space than what you might think.
Because, again, I forget exactly the verbiage for it, but it's really your top 53, obviously, that matters. I mean, if you're the 60th guy, you're not counting against the cap, even though you are right now, because you're not on the team. You know.
Minnesota has $58.6 million. They have 54 players under contract. Detroit has 50.
But not the right ones.
Not the right ones.
Yeah.
Detroit has 53 players under contract, $55 million in cap space. Tennessee has 49.8, but they have 48 players under contract. So if we get to the Steelers have $37.3 million, just according to Spot Track right now.
Right.
But they have 58 players under contract.
Oh, that's a big number.
That's a big number.
Yeah.
So you're going to have some signings. When you sign a guy, there's going to be that cap displacement.
Yeah.
Where, okay, this guy who's on the cap for $1.2 million, well, we signed this guy for $4 million. Well, you really
he gets bumped off.
Yeah, you really only took $3.8 million or $2.8 million in cap space.
And they have a lot of dudes that are definitely going to be at camp next year.
Yeah.
And, that is a big number. I didn't realize that part.
The Saints, as we mentioned, $60 million over the cap.
They're last.
They're last. Yeah. But they do have 61 players under contract.
Interesting. Okay.
But again, they can't just cut. Like if they cut their top 10.
It doesn't help them.
most expensive guys on their roster, they actually lose money.
Yeah, they do. I mean, because the way they've just kicked the can down there. Credit cards are maxed to the gills.
Cleveland's in the same boat.
Exactly.
Cleveland's $34 million over the cap. They have 59 players under contract, but again, some of those guys don't help them financially by cutting them.
No.
They're going to have to go back to the bank of Deshaun Watson again and maybe kick the can down the road even farther and add more voidable years. They're going to eat that contract for
ever and ever.
It was a 4-year deal. They're going to end up paying him for 12 years.
Probably will, right. I guess it came out today with no surprise. Garrett said he would restructure his contract to help facilitate a trade.
He wants out.
But
he's going to have to do that to make it viable for Cleveland.
I can't stress enough what bad shape the Browns and Saints are in.
Seattle is $19.3 million over the cap. Buffalo is $18.9 million over the cap. Miami, $15.8 million over the cap with only 50 players signed.
Wow. And again, it makes you think about Tyreek and Metcalf, and some of these teams are going to get a little desperate here in the coming weeks.
Yeah, it's one thing. Like these other teams that are way over the cap have 60 players under contract.
Mm-hmm.
Miami's way over the cap. They have 50. They have 10 fewer than the other teams that we've talked about.
Yeah, and those guys aren't. Well, some of them, I guess, are rookies, but in lower deals. But still, there's a lot of $1 million contracts in there.
Atlanta's over the cap. Dallas is over the cap. Tampa Bay is over the cap, and Houston is over the cap.
I don't even think cutting Kirk Cousins gives them relief either.
I don't think it does either because they just signed him and you gave him a good,
Right.
They just got to
dead money,
bite the bullet.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll talk more about that as we get closer to.
And like the Steelers, a lot of these teams are going to manipulate that stuff, of course.
And right now we're talking about estimated cap space. We won't know for sure until the actual number comes out here in the next couple of weeks. What these teams they don't even know exactly what they're dealing with. They have an idea.
Cap and Spot Track do wonderful work, but it's not official.
Not exact science.
It's not the league office, right?
Yeah. So, anyways, that's going to do it for today's show. So, for my partner Matt Williamson, for Justin Miller here on site, making sure everything sounds great and running the Justin Miller hotline, and for Tevin Dandridge here, making sure our video on YouTube looks great.
Best you can do with
Best he can do with it. Anyways, I am Dale Lolley. We thank you for listening to this edition of The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.